Right on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to number five of the Rooftop Podcast.
Five. Number five. Yep.
I think it's five. I'm
Can't
here
remember.
with the illustrious Mr. Gregory. He's the only one we've got today, and it's actually his first solo podcast with me. So, welcome, sir.
I feel very honored today. Actually, it's my first solo podcast. I don't get too many great opportunities in my life, but this is probably a highlight.
That's very humbling to hear that, sir. Also, I think it is actually going to be the last one of 2018
Yeah, more than likely it's going to be the last one.
because it's pretty hard to get people together to do these. So I think it's going to be the final episode unless we can get. I want to do one with us three, me, you, Robert, one more time before the end of the year, but it might not happen. So this might be the final Rooftop Podcast of 2018. But yeah, I've got some juicy stuff to talk about that actually we were talking in the car last night about some good topics, but actually I withheld something from you, Greg. I did. I served on a jury this last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I actually did. I was pretty surprised. I didn't think they were going to select me being a 19-year-old kid working at Target, but they did, and it was actually really interesting. The selections, everyone talks about how jury duty is really boring, and if you just go to the selections, then yes, I could see that because the selections were fucking boring. I was sitting in like a waiting room for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Then when they called us into the jury room to ask questions for their selections, so many fucking people. They would ask questions like have you or a family member ever been convicted of a crime? Have you or a family member ever been a victim of a crime? Or like, do you have are you more inclined to believe police officers, not inclined to believe police officers at all, or not feel one way or the other? And so people just felt the need to fucking tell their life story. And I don't understand why, dude. I don't understand why they felt the need to tell their life story. Like on some questions, have you or your family ever been a victim of a crime? Some people, they would talk about how they're like, someone literally brought up like a friend's cousin was like a victim of this crime, and back in like 2003, and it's like, that's not your. Why the fuck are you talking about this? I don't need to know
understand.
about. I don't need to know about this. Okay, and then and it was only just because if you were and you raised your card, they're like, okay, having that experience, could you be fair and impartial on this jury? And it's like, I'm pretty sure that you could be fair and impartial because that didn't even happen to your family member. There was no reason to bring that up.
Yeah.
There was this guy who literally was talking about stories from his childhood 54 years ago.
Oh, boy.
54 fucking years ago. And he would just, he would talk about...
I believe that was the Cenozoic era. But sorry, go ahead. Period. Go ahead.
He was, I don't know, dude. He was talking about how when he was like 5 years old, he had a gun put up to his head and in his dad's truck. And then it just like, it didn't matter at all what they were talking about. These people would, and they would make up, you could obviously tell people were bullshitting when they were asking if you had an excuse, like a reasonable hardship or financial hardship as to why you couldn't serve. And people, it was so funny watching people just bullshit their way through that. It was so fun. People had any stupid excuse. And then, speaking of sharing too much, this chick, she like sounded, when it was like, if you had a financial hardship, it could, and that would be a reason not to serve, they would ask you to share why. And she like went on this whole story about how she's a stay-at-home mom, her husband's the only one working, and how they it would be a financial, or no, I forgot what she did. I forgot what the fuck she did. But I remember her going on about how it would be a super hard financial burden on them to not serve because they've only got one car in the house, and like she can't even afford a cell phone and this and that. It's like, I felt bad, but it's like, again, I've been here for like 5 hours. I don't need to know whether or not you can buy a cell phone or you have one car.
Yeah.
I just need to know if it's gonna be
I
rough
noticed-
on you or not.
Yeah, people do that a lot. Like, I don't remember where that happened to me at, but I remember asking somebody something, and it's like this whole spiel. Like, dude, it's a yes or no answer. I don't need to be sitting here for 20 minutes. Like, I don't mean to be mean, but I don't care, you know?
Yeah, like I mean, you feel for some of them, but then again, it's like that had nothing to do
Yeah, like
with
gets
what
really
we were
irritating.
talking
Yeah.
about. And
People
so
just like talking about themselves. just
they
like
really
to,
do.
you
They
know.
really fucking do, and I don't get it.
I believe that's actually a fact, like an actual scientific fact that people really do like talking about themselves.
Yeah. But so we get through all that, and then I get selected. I was pretty fucking surprised. So it was they select 10 people, and only 8 of them are gonna be actually voting on the case, and they have 2 alternates who sit in the case just in case like someone can't be on the jury after all.
Yeah.
So here's the case. It was the state versus Kristen Elizabeth Ellison. Okay? And that was her actual name. I don't really care. You can go look her up. Whatever. You know? So,
Yeah.
it's over now, so I can talk about whatever the fuck I want. So it was a DUI case, right? And so usually...
Was it just DUI, or was there extra stuff added?
Oh, actually, okay, here are the 2 charges, because that's actually really important.
I was gonna say, because this sounds like a video I saw on Facebook. Actually,
It's actually really, really important.
How old are you allowed to say?
2015. Yeah, it's over. I can say whatever the fuck I want.
How old was she when it happened?
She's 36 now.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, never mind.
She's 36 now, so at the time she would have been like 32.
Yeah, never mind. I'm thinking of a different case.
So this happened back in 2000. It was February 1st, 2015. Okay. Her charges are. She has 2 counts of aggravated driving while under the influence of intoxicating liquor and/or drugs. Right?
Wow. Okay.
2 counts. So, here's the story. One night, this man, who's one of the witnesses, named Matthew Cool, who is also a off-duty border patrol agent. So he was at a friend's party, you drinking whatever. He's on the way home with his wife. His wife's driving the car. They're driving home when they see a wrecked silver Ford F-150 wrecked up on the side embankment of like 35th Avenue and the 101.
Huh. Okay.
Okay. So he gets out. His wife stays in the car, but he goes and checks out what's happening. So he gets there, or he's walking up towards the truck, and he sees a girl behind the truck trying to push the car. And then as he's walking up, they said a Hispanic man handed him the keys to the car and left. So that's the last we ever heard of that Hispanic guy. Okay? All we know is when Matthew Cool walked up to the scene, a Hispanic man handed him the keys to the truck and left. Okay?
Okay.
So that's what we don't know anything else about that person, right? So he gets up behind the truck. He sees that everyone's okay, and he can smell that she's fucking drunk.
Yeah.
And she's trying to push this car. We find out that the axle's fucking broken. So I mean, her drunk ass is trying to push a truck that's not gonna go fucking anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, she's telling him that she's got to get out of there before the cops come. Okay. So he dials up 911, because everyone's okay and he's got nothing else. So he's like talking to the dispatcher on the phone. We got to hear the call and everything. And during the call, a patrol officer actually comes on the scene. So they just hang up the phone at that time. And so when the officer arrives, Matthew Cool hands the officer the keys to the truck. And then there were 2 other guys there at the time that the officer got there. And I don't remember if Matthew Cool said that they were there when he was there or not. So I'm not sure when they came in the picture. But when the officer arrived, they were already there. Okay. So the officer gets there, and when he arrives, the Matthew Cool, he says that he heard her say, "I'm going to jail tonight." Okay. So he hands the officer the keys to the truck, and then the officer checks that everyone's okay, and then he just he starts asking questions. He gets down Matthew Cool's information, this, that, gets his side of the story, gets his information to contact him later, and then lets him on his way. Okay? Or that may be after he asks who's driving, because the officer asks who was driving.
Yeah, of course.
And then the lady, Kristen, she raises her hand, says she was driving, and she was the sole occupant of the car. Okay?
Right on.
So after that, at some point, the officer just gets the information from Matthew Cool, sends him on his way, and he talks to the other two white guys. And the officer recognized the other two white guys because they were what he called couch surfers that are in the area that he patrols. So he would just come across them and chat them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. But the officer never took down any of their information. And he didn't even write anything down that they had said. So we don't know anything about anything about the Hispanic man or these two white guys that he happens to know. We have no information on any of them. Okay? So
that's great.
And we ask why, and he says, well, because he knows them to be couch surfers, and he figured they didn't have a permanent address, so he said there was really no way for him to get in contact with them after. Okay, so he lets everyone go, and then it's just him and Kristen, and so he smells obviously the liquor on her.
Yeah.
So and he says that she was in heels, and he asks for ID, he asks for license, registration, insurance. She doesn't provide all that. She provides an ID, the car registration, which is registered to her father's name, and then the insurance.
No license, though?
No license. Because at the time, her license had been canceled.
Oh.
Because they don't disclose what for, but they tell us that she had previously had a suspended license and then ended up just canceling her license.
Oh my God! So yeah,
we don't get to know what for, but we know that happened, right?
Yeah.
So she gets I don't know what happens throughout this part, but we get to the point where he's beginning to arrest her, and at that point, she starts getting belligerent and like yelling like, "You're hurting me," this and that, and she's asking for a field supervisor and another officer. So Officer Tan said, who is the officer? He said that to avoid a liability case, he just got a supervisor and some other officers. So they wait till they get there, and then when the officers get there, other ones, they get her into the back of the car. So Officer Tan takes her to a precinct where they can do the field sobriety test and some other, blood testing that they did. And then another officer follows them to that station. And the reason the officer gave for not doing the field sobriety test there is because he felt that it would be unsafe with all the traffic around or whatever.
Yeah.
Mind you, this is 2:43 in the morning. So, I mean...
Oh, so yeah, it's like there's nobody out.
Yeah, but he felt that it just wasn't safe for her to do it out in the actual scene. So, so he takes him and another officer take her to the precinct, while like another 2 or 3 officers stay behind to impound the car, take photos of the scene, and then return the items in the truck to the address on the registration, I think. And while they were searching, they actually they found amphetamines on her.
Oh man.
But that's going to be a different case. That's not us. So
Damn.
But so that'll kind of come into play a little bit later.
I was gonna ask you, do you know if they found any in her system? But I guess we'll wait for that.
So they get all that, and here's the thing: they took photos, right? And we got to see the photos as evidence. The thing is, the photos were really shitty. They were really, really grainy, like really bad, and they never took photos of the truck, actually how it was at the scene.
Oh man.
We only got to see photos of the truck on the towing trailer. So we never got to see how it actually was, like they said on the embankment.
Yeah. So. Okay, that seems a little. It's either they're just bad at their job, or I don't even want to say they're covering because they don't know this lady.
Yeah.
But
So so those are the shitty photos we see, right? So they take her back to the station. They do the field sobriety test. They did a walk and turn and then a one-leg stand. Fails both of them, right?
Yeah.
And then they do the blood work test. And when the results come back, which is way later, but so they do all those tests. They read her rights. She shuts up. Never says another thing. Okay? After she's read her rights.
Yeah.
And so that's also really important because there's a difference between admission and confession. So at the scene, when she said she was driving the occupant, that was just an admission.
Yeah, it wasn't
because
she confessed anything. Yeah.
Because she was at the scene and she was never read her rights.
Yeah, of course.
But if she had been read her rights after the fact and said she was driving, it would have been a confession to the crime.
Yeah.
However, she shut up after she was read her rights. Very smart.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So I guess she kind of knew. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So later on, the results come back, the blood test. She's almost 3 times the legal limit for alcohol, and they find amphetamines in her system.
What a lit night, man. That's crazy.
And they find amphetamines in her system.
Look, I would say she was living the life, but she wrecked her car. So.
She was coming from a strip club.
Oh, even more lit, man. She was getting it. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So, I mean, she had 2 purses, one with the amphetamines in it and whatever else, and then one with the change of clothes. So we were kind of joking she might have worked there, which she very well could have.
She could have.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But, so that's where the aggravated driving comes from, being so over the limit.
On a side note, did I ever tell you about that one time? One of my friends and I decided to get a Tinder just to kind of mess around with it, and I ended up matching with this girl who I'm pretty sure is a stripper. I think she works at this club called Jaguars. What's over on the west side? Yeah, I'm almost 100% positive. Like,
she was coming from Explicit, which is like way the fuck out there.
Oh, I've never heard of that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So you matched up with the girl from Jaguars? Why didn't you go out or anything?
Because we had a little conversation, and then at some point she just stopped responding. So I was like, okay.
Oh, damn. Weren't interesting enough for the stripper?
I guess so. I guess she likes rich men who have a lot going on. Probably who have like 3 baby mamas, and I don't have one, so.
It's not a bad thing. It's okay, Greg. She lost out. You're such a handsome young man.
Hey, man, once I get out of school, if I do end up working in the field that I'm studying for, I could make up to $70,000 a year as soon as I get out, so.
That's good in Arizona.
Yeah.
He'd be poor in California, but...
I'd be poor in San Francisco, but here in Arizona, that's really good
You'd
money.
be poor in a lot of places in California, not just San Francisco.
Hey, man, shut up, all right?
But it depends on... the pay also depends on where you're...
Yeah, because if I moved there, I'd be making probably like $150,000, maybe $160,000 a year. Well, actually, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It would increase no matter what.
Yeah, it would, because living costs and all that. Yeah, of course. But let's go ahead and finish the story.
Okay, so tests come back. She's like 3 times the legal limit, or it was like 2.5 kind of.
What?
She blew a .199. So
I don't even know what the
a .08 is.
I was gonna say I think .08 is like the legal limit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where the aggravated driving comes from, and then the amphetamines in her system is the second count.
Ouch.
Okay, so during the case, the state just shows all the toxicology reports and brings in the actual people who did the tests as witnesses, and then they show that she knew her license was suspended or canceled because she had all these DMV documents showing that she knew and that she canceled it.
Oh, so she couldn't argue that she wasn't aware or anything.
Yeah. And she didn't even argue that she was under the influence.
Well, how could you? I mean, at that point, it's like, might as well just shut up and not say anything. Okay.
So they show all that during the case. So we go back to deliberations, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. On the jury, it was actually a really, really good and interesting experience. Like, honestly, if you don't mind missing work, dude, and you get selected, it's pretty cool the way it works out. But on the jury, it was me and 7 other people, right? One of them was a 29-year Chicago cop vet who now teaches law at Glendale Community College, right?
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then another one was a therapist kind of guy who works with like the homeless and stuff and people like that.
Yeah.
And then there's me, just a 19-year-old from fucking Target. Another lady that works for law enforcement at like a station or something. And then it was just a really good, diverse group of people that they selected. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
And so we came in on the Chicago cop, we made him the jury foreman, right? And he basically ran the jury. Of course, he was asking us because he was like, I don't want to just take this over and make it mine. So he's like, just let me guys know, you can always speak your voice and just let me know if you don't like something that we're doing. And he's like, and we'll just, it's everyone. Everyone's vote matters just as much as mine. So we're going to run this so everyone can have a voice.
Definitely.
So he ran it really well. He ran it like he was running his class, right? And so he went around and first got everyone's thoughts, right? Before we even started talking. And even I, so this chick, the car's registered to her name, or her father's name. She's blown like almost 3 times the legal limit. She's on amphetamines. It's like, it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
Yeah.
She was fucking driving.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much everyone was thinking that. And then, here's the thing he brought up to us. He's like, well, the law is not what you feel.
Of course.
The state has what they call the burden of proof to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that whatever they're accusing the defendant of, that they did it. Okay? Now, her charges were for what?
Driving under the influence and then the amphetamines?
There was 2 counts of aggravated
driving.
driving.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah.
2 counts of aggravated driving while under the influence of intoxicating liquor or drugs.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
What's the key word?
Oh, I'm sorry. You asking me?
What's the key word? Yeah.
Aggravated, or what are you saying?
Driving.
Oh, driving. Okay, so.
Driving is the key word in that charge, right?
Oh, so she's gonna argue that she was a passenger or something, and that dude that handed the keys.
Oh, here's the thing. That's why. He explained to us, and it was really hard. I saw what he's saying, so I was like, well, yeah. So basically, a lot of people were struggling with it because I'm telling you, everyone in that jury was like, yeah, she was fucking driving. Everyone knows she was driving. 100% she was driving.
It seems like
it was no-brainer. And there was really no reason for us not to believe the officer. However, the officer left too many loose ends in the story. And one was not even really his fault, is the Hispanic male, right, who gave Cool the keys. He can't control that. But we never got good pictures, right? Never got good, proper pictures of the actual scene. And we didn't get any other witnesses than Matthew Cool, even though there were 2 other people there that he had talked to, right?
Okay.
And so basically, what it boiled down to, even though because we were in the deliberations for about a day and a half, because people were struggling, because they knew she was driving, but you have to make a decision by the law.
Yeah, exactly.
By what the
not
law
by what you
states,
feel.
right? So
I was gonna say that too. I'm like, because if the officers, it almost seems like the officers wanted to make it hard for them to figure out.
Well, what we were saying in the deliberations was that the state probably thought that it was a slam dunk of a case, meaning that all these things, you can infer that she was driving.
Exactly.
So he probably he was probably just like, well, yeah, we probably don't need to go too far into this, and so that's why he left so many loose ends in the case. However, all those loose ends made you think, well, it's possible that another person could be driving, because it says a reasonable doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. So it was basically like 2 people left were with guilty, because we would take little polls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I put it this way. I was like, well, that Hispanic man who handed Cool the keys and left the scene, no matter how small the chance that it was, would you say that it is reasonable that he could have been the one driving and left the scene? No matter how unlikely that sounds, with all the circumstances, you could say that is a reasonable thought.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I'm thinking too. But then at the same time, I feel like you're going to say something else that's going to completely debunk that. So I'm just kind of waiting.
Oh, no. So it's reasonable to think that there's a possibility he was driving.
Yeah.
And it's reasonable to think that, because we don't know anything about those guys, the couch surfers the officer was talking about.
Yeah.
Because he got no information from them. We never saw him as a witness. That they could have had more information about the accident. They could have seen it happen. They could have been passengers, right? So, eventually, we voted her not guilty. She was not guilty because the state didn't meet its burden of proof to prove beyond a reasonable doubt
so there wasn't
that
enough
she
evidence.
was driving, because she was never seen. No one ever saw the accident. No one ever saw her behind the wheel, because remember when the Cool came up, he saw her behind the truck trying to push it.
Yeah.
And get this, at no point did anyone ever see her with the keys in her possession.
Exactly. The keys were either with the guy that gave the keys to Matthew, who then had the keys after him, and then he gave them to the cop. So you're right. It's like they never saw her with that is crazy.
And
well, what about, like, was there any, like, charges on...
it was only those 2 counts.
Oh, you're right. That's a
because,
different case.
I mean, I'm sure they charged her with the drug
possession, but you're right.
But
that's
a different case.
Yeah, different case.
So she got off scot-free for that, just because the technicality of the law.
Yeah.
And we got to talk to lawyers and the judge afterwards, and people, they were talking about with the judge how they felt. One guy was like, we kind of felt as though we were letting off a guilty person because we had to vote within the confines of the law. And she said, "Welcome to my job."
Yeah.
And the thing is, the law guy, his name's Judge, and the guy who teaches at GCC, he said, "I would rather let a guilty person free than convict an innocent person." He said, because if they're guilty and they get away with it, they're bound to do it again and get caught.
Yeah, true.
And even then, like, if this was a more serious case, I mean, it is serious, just being a DUI case, because we're talking about civil liberties. If she would have been convicted, she would have been thrown in jail.
Yeah.
You lose your rights and your freedom. So in that way, it's really serious. You're taking away someone's constitutional rights. But if this had been a murder case, we could have been killing her. We could have been voting for the death penalty, and it's happened. Innocent people have been killed in juries just by wrongful
accusation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you'd rather let someone guilty off free than do that to an innocent person.
That's a good point. That I guess that kind of goes along lines with that conversation we had yesterday about the legality versus morality and all that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to draw the line. And
because
really
everyone in that jury room knew she was fucking driving, but you want to keep it consistent through every case.
But yes,
so
the law is a lot more. It's more
black
factual.
and white. It's
You're
really
more
black
and white. Yeah, rather than the feeling thing where it's like, oh, we know she was driving.
Because I actually gave the example. I think my dad was telling me how your dad argued a ticket in court about unsafe lane change when he did it in an intersection, and he argued that there were no lanes in an intersection.
He did that to me too. I'm like, Dad, you're not supposed to change lanes in an intersection. And he's like, there's no lanes in an intersection. I'm like, but like you can't like turn a little bit. And he's like, what do you mean? Like I'm not turning at all. I'm like, damn it. Like how am I supposed to argue to this guy? Like
Yeah. So I was giving that example, and then people were also before we came to that decision, they were hung up on the fact that that why would the officer be lying? And then I gave the example. I was like, well, it's not that the officer could be lying. I put it in these words. I gave this example. I was like, the thing is, do we have to get out soon?
No, we're good. We're good for right now.
The thing is, say your good friend is an automotive engineer. He like creates the engines, and he designs new cars for whatever Koenigsegg, and he made this new supercar, goes 0 to 60 in 1.3 seconds, whatever.
Jesus,
right?
that's
Yeah.
a fast car.
Okay. Even the new Tesla Roadster.
No, I know.
won't go that
Yeah.
fast. But I'm just saying. And he comes and tells you, he's like, yeah, we just created this new car. It's not out yet or anything, but we got the designs, and we're about to start making press releases and everything. But it goes 0 to 60 1.3 seconds, and you're like, Well, I mean, there's no reason there's no reason not to doubt him. I mean, he's the one who's designing the car or whatever, and he said he saw it go that fast, right? But I don't have all the information. He never gave me the dyno results when they did testing. He never gave me video or anything for actual proof.
Yeah.
That what happened actually happened. You know, I have no reason not to doubt the officer, but he didn't give me enough evidence to say definitively that she was driving. Not that I don't believe him, but that he just didn't provide me enough evidence to throw this person in jail.
Yeah.
You know, like just how he didn't provide me enough evidence to go bet $3 million that this car is going to go 0 to 60 in 1.3. I need to see hard evidence.
Yeah. So, real quick, going back to that, was there any point in time where you felt like the officer was covering for her?
No, at no point. I didn't think anyone or any witnesses were not telling the truth.
Yeah, you know, I feel that was highly unlikely because it's like he doesn't know her. What's he going to gain from
No
that?
one
She
knew
probably
her,
doesn't
yeah.
have enough money to pay him for something like that. I really doubt that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's almost like they suck at their job, kind of. I mean, with the pictures that they took.
Yeah.
Like, dude, are you trying to like do?
Yeah,
a good
that's
job,
we were also talking about that because he at that time I think he had been in the force for about 7 years, and he was previously an Army vet or Air Force vet.
Yeah, but it's yeah.
And we were like, I mean, that long in like that kind of field, you would figure you know how to dot your I's and cross your T's at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So we
It's
were like we don't really know what he was doing, you know. So there was just way too many loose ends in that case for us to be like, well, we're gonna send her to jail, even though you know you're like she was fucking driving.
Yeah, but like you said though, in the eyes of the law, there was nothing that was really definitive.
Yep.
There was really no
and here's the
solid
thing:
evidence.
if you don't like that decision, you can vote to change the law, which is how you go about doing that. But it's a little tricky with individual laws like that. But
It is, yeah, because then you have to work around our, I guess, our amendments.
but yeah, it was just
Occasionally.
really fucking interesting just to see how that all worked, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my jury duty experience. It was pretty fucking cool. Not gonna lie, it makes you learn. Like, trust me, dude. If you serve, it'll make you learn a lot about how the system works and how people come to decisions and stuff and those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Man, that's a lot. On a really unrelated note, I kind of wanted to bring up my, I don't even want to call it a gripe, but just my stress with school currently. I just felt like I wanted
Hard
to address
180.
this because what?
Hard 180.
Yeah, hard 180. Honestly, I'm like, damn, why did I do this to myself? Like, why am I here? Like, I need to go home. This is outrageous. No, but okay, so basically, it like, I don't know if I explained this before, but the way that I'm doing school right now is it's like a 6-month, what they call kind of like a boot camp. And basically, I'm learning web development and a little bit of software engineering. For the most part, it hasn't been all that hard because the first month of school, or like I guess the first quarter.
Keep going. I'm just gonna check if it's still recording.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, yeah. It's separated into quarters. So. Sorry. Okay. So the first quarter was basically what we call Frontend Concepts, and Frontend Concepts consist of I guess user side, client side, components of a website. So for instance, that was when we were working with HTTP, which is the layout and the setup of a website, CSS, which is the design, how it looks, colors and all that, and then the JavaScript, which is the functionality. Now we're doing backend, which is the server-side stuff, which is the more complicated stuff because it's joining file paths, it's redirecting actual like hyperlinks and stuff like that to take you to different pages. It's handling databases and creating databases, and it's really complicated. And I've had trouble like learning stuff, memorizing it. It's a lot, and even my computer doesn't. Okay, to kind of just summarize, I guess what I'm about to say about my computer is that there's this JavaScript. It's sort of like a framework. It's called Connects, which basically is how you manipulate a database through a text editor. It's how you basically send information back and forth. Well, not how you do it. It's just a way to it. It makes it easier. My computer, for some reason, doesn't recognize in the terminal, which is basically like a console, how you control everything, from the text editor to the actual, like, the server to the website, like communicating with the client. Well, I guess that's kind of exaggerated, but the terminal should be able to execute almost every command that would manipulate pretty much everything you're working with. And I tried running a connects command, which I basically tried to create a table in one of my databases, and it would not recognize the connects command. So I tried reinstalling everything, running my Node package manager, running my connects install, and nothing worked. So it's just, I'm really stressed right now, trying to finish up old units that I haven't finished yet, and trying to learn stuff and actually get it memorized in my head, because I have assessments on January 2nd, which is the week I get back from school after Christmas, and all this week I'm working like 6 days, so it's going to be really complicated trying to study and learn stuff that I have literally like a week left to learn. So that's kind of a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think it's doable if I just put my mind to it and I really, really crack down on it.
I believe in you, Greg.
Thank you.
I believe in you.
Also, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we had this nice little Riddell Speedflex football helmet here. This is actually my little brother's. He was inspired to get it by me because I had one before him. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up the Arizona Cardinals' stressful losing season, because it's
been straight garbage.
Disappointing.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Nothing good coming out of Arizona sports right now.
Except
ASU, dude. Did you see what ASU did last night? ASU basketball?
No.
They beat Kansas, #1 ranked in the country.
Really?
They beat them, bro.
Where? ASU's not known for their basketball, but
they're ranked 18 in the nation.
Really?
You have not been paying attention to ASU fucking basketball, have you?
Nope.
What about their football?
Oh, football, yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah.
I know that they lost in the Las Vegas Bowl to Fresno, so that was pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
But man, I was a huge fan of Manny Wilkins. Just to see him go, though, I'm pretty disappointed about that.
Yeah, dude, the basketball team is doing good fucking things. I think ASU's on a good little come up for their athletic programs.
Oh yeah.
Their football team is not as good as 2013, but it'll get there. I mean, I think I see good things with Herm Edwards, actually.
Yeah.
He's doing some good stuff. They're definitely doing they're doing better than their final years of Todd Graham, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think final year with Todd Graham, they were negative. They were like 3 and what was it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I just know they didn't have.
It's just crazy how you go from like the Pac-12 championship to something like that. You know?
Yeah.
How Mike McCarthy went from winning Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers.
Now he's not even working. Yeah, he got fired.
Fucking fired as soon as he lost to the
Arizona,
Cardinals.
I know they fired his ass. Yeah, that's
I mean,
quick.
when you lose to the Cardinals in this season, dude, it's really fucking
11,
bad.
Yeah, that's pretty embarrassing.
And they got lucky. I think they got lucky with one of their wins, right?
I was at work. I didn't even watch that. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm never home to watch the games.
I've not watched a full game this season.
No, I haven't either. I've only just watched the highlights on YouTube.
It's really fucking disappointing, actually.
Yeah.
And we'll be back from these sponsors, guys.
Oh yeah, sorry. We had a little sponsors. Yeah.
What do you want, Papa?
Papa.
Actually, never mind. We don't have to come back from any sponsors because we're not distracted. What was he doing?
No, he was just time.
We have to get going soon, or what?
Yeah, we might want to wrap it up. So today was a bit of a shorter episode because it was right before work, and I took forever to get up out of bed, so that doesn't really help.
And then after he took forever to get out of bed, he decided to watch 2 episodes of That 70s Show.
What a great show. I mean,
and then after he was watching That 70s Show, he decided to play the guitar for about 10 minutes.
You got to practice. You got to stay sharp.
How much longer do we have?
What was that?
How much longer do we have?
Like, we probably should cut it now.
Okay. All right, guys. I don't know if I should say sorry for the shorter episode. I don't know how many people actually watched the entire thing all the way through.
Yeah, I don't either.
But
this is a good thing. Oh, but you noticed a little something different about the camera?
Oh yeah, there's no Carlos today, guys. We don't know where the fuck he's been. We'll see if he comes back next episode.
You know, I tried texting him, and he sent me a virus, and he put a rat in my phone and reinstalled my operating system and wiped everything off my phone. So,
I don't know, dude. I think you and him have a beef you need to settle.
I don't understand, man. I like the guy. I think he's pretty useful.
That's a word.
Yeah, it's a word.
Okay, well, thank you guys for watching if you got to this point, and we will see you maybe in another one, but if not, we will see you in 2019.
With that being said, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and don't drive drunk. Call an Uber.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right, we'll catch you guys later.